Well, good afternoon. Time to check in on those markets. And of course, we kick off with the interview with SASOL. This is after the fuel producer reported an increase in earnings that was, of course, driven by the increase that we saw in oil and its chemical prices. They've managed to quadruple earnings and restore their dividend for the first time in 3 years. But to talk to us about more and give us more color, we are joined by CEO Fleetwood Grobler. Fleetwood, thank you so much for your time. Let's look back at the year that was. How would you characterize the financial and operational performance?
I think when we take into account the macro situation, the pandemic, the floods, the turmoil, the impact of the conflict in Ukraine, all of that, then on the back of the additional macro winds that started to blow favorably in the oil environment, we reflect on the early part of the first half where we struggled with some of our operational issues in our value chain in Secunda with respect to coal and output. And the second half then, as we solidified the turnaround focus to remediate some of those areas and how that then came through in the second half, I think we reflect on a very, very challenging environment, very volatile with the weather events. We look at the impacts that the floods in KZN had on our supply chains. At some stage, we couldn't move product down to the coast through the rail system. We had to move a lot of products then on the road. But I think that's just part of the landscape we navigated. So I think the outcome for us, it's pleasing, and we're also very pleased that our shareholders now can participate in some of the rewards in terms of the reinstatement of the dividend. So they've been patient with us over the last 2 years, but we've engaged them and told them what are our plans and how we're going to get to the point that we reached today.
When it comes to your divestment program, what else is left from a transactional point of view?
We have taken a view to review all our assets globally, and that was with the strategic lens. So we've basically concluded that strategy-led asset divestment program that yielded almost, I think it's in the region of 38 billion rand that we used to pay down debt. That has now been basically concluded. We are now going into a more business as usual type of frame of mind with our asset review process. So we will continuously always review asset, look if it's still solidly within our strategic focus. If not, we will then consider it to either fix or to partner or to sell. But I think substantially we've come to the end of our big asset divestment program.
Fleetwood, we find ourselves in a very complicated environment, especially when you look at the Russia-Ukraine tensions. What measures have you put in place in order to procure energy supply, given the fact that, what is happening there does impact producers?
Yes, we are exposed in our Eurasia operations, that means in Germany and Italy, to the energy crisis that developed there on gas, and not only the gas prices, but also the availability of that. So what we've been doing is to look at options to mitigate that, to look at alternative sources of energy that we can employ in our operations there. Fortunately, in the southern part of either Italy and Sicily, we've got the optionality also to get gas from Africa. We also look at other alternative sources of energy that we can employ, not only gas. But as we go into Germany, the impact of the gas is different. In Marl, in the middle of Germany, in the Ruhr area where one of our big operations are, the landlord there, Evonik, has decided to recommence their coal-fired boilers to generate steam and electricity for that site. So there's one mitigation area. In the northern part of Germany, in Brunsbüttel, where we've got our operations there, we've started to bring in all imported electricity into the site on a renewable basis from the Scandinavia countries that's coming in to that site. We're also looking how to switch to biomass to generate steam for our operations there. So we've got varying degrees of mitigation to see how we can, mitigate this energy and gas supply crisis in Europe.
Fleetwood, before I let you go, given an environment of heightened volatility on the oil price side and as well as high inflation, what's your outlook going forward?
It's always a question that people ask me, and I always say, your crystal ball is as good as mine that I look into. So we do not predict the oil price, but we take into account what are experts saying, where it's heading. So I think where we would see that if there's any moderation in the tensions on a global economic basis, we see the inflationary pressures mounting, we see the recessionary pressures mounting. All of that, if you take all of that into account, there may be a moderation in oil price as we look into the next 6-12 months, but that is very volatile and I won't take a bet on anyway. We just would prepare ourselves for both, a steady state or a reduction of oil price, and that's why we've implemented, our SASOL 2.0 program so that we are resilient in a more lower oil price environment, and we can't exclude that going forward.
Fleetwood, thank you so much for your time. That is SASOL CEO Fleetwood Grobler talking to us about the year that was.